A few years back, I was playing Call of Duty 19, Modern Warfare 2, and this weird glitch kept happening. Everything looked chrome and technicolor. I was worried that these were the last moments of my dying GPU, one last visual spectacle transforming a bleak war sim into an acid-soaked rave. Thankfully, my GPU was fine, I just needed to update my drivers and that fixed it. This seems to be a common bug in all of the Call of Duty games where the materials shaders break. I tweeted this out on X the Everything app Blaze Your Glory, and a ton of people got back to me with their own GPU melting artifacts and glitches that they've encountered. So let's try recreating melting GPU glitch artifacts in Unreal.
Alert.
The easiest way to get that melting graphics card effect is to actually melt the player's graphics card. Let's create a particle system that spawns, say, 100 ducts per second and see what happens. Okay, that's not enough. Let's up it to 1,000 ducts per second. 10,000 ducts per second? Okay, now my GPU is heating up, but unfortunately it'll take some time before it starts to break down. Okay, we should probably find a way of faking this so that we don't actually ruin people's hardware. First, let's see how we can recreate that chrome glitch I was seeing in Call of Duty 19 Modern Warfare 2 too. In Unreal, you can set up your materials to reference a parent material. This is useful for creating instances of similar materials and tweaking their parameters, like this rainy concrete material that I have, for instance. In the parent material, let's set up our chrome glitch effect and find a way of swapping between the two. I'm using the new substrate materials here, by the way. Let's create another material and then set it up so that it looks chrome. In the COD clip, the chrome material has a bumpy appearance. This is likely just due to the normal map still being applied. I added a bumpy normal map to my material just to exaggerate the effect. Finally, let's set up an emissive color. In the glitch, the neon highlights look to be coming from reflections in the material. We can fake reflections by using the View Aligned Reflection node and using that as the UV in some texture. I created this RGB pixel noise texture and then blurred it to make it look like the glitched reflections in COD. Finally, I used a material parameter collections to swap between the standard material and the glitch material. The parameter now affects every single material that has this material as its parent. Let's see how it looks. I think I got pretty close to the chrome glitch, but unfortunately you'll need to set up every material in your scene to have this effect. Another GPU glitch that I saw a lot of, which could actually be an indicator of a failing GPU, is this deep fried effect. This could point to any number of problems. Maybe the VRAM's faulty, maybe it's something to do with the data bus or the GPU's internal shaders or something. Okay, to be honest, I don't really know how GPUs work. I'm not a Sorolla. What I do know is that some cursed numbers have snuck into the color channels, like zeros or negative numbers or null, not a number numbers, and that's what's causing all these glitches to occur. Here's an example I saw while playing AI the Somnium files. Whenever the character Iba here stops moving, the contrast in the scene just keeps getting higher and higher and higher. This is probably just another shader issue and not my GPU dying, hopefully, but it's a similar effect. So how do we recreate this? Well, with some cursed math. It's incredibly easy and fun to mess around with. Let's take a look at a camera in Unreal. We can see here in the post-processing settings, we can look at the color grading. These modify the color channels of the image that this is generating, so we can recreate a glitch by messing with these values. Take saturation, for example. When it's 1, it's high saturation. When it's 0, it's black and white. But what do you think happens when we put 2 in? It makes it super saturated. Okay, what do you think happens when we put 100 in? Even more saturated. This was probably that glitch I was seeing in AI the Somnium files. Okay, but now what do you think happens if we enter -1? It inverts the colors. We can even do -100. Now it's getting very trippy. Or even 1,000. Or 10,000. Okay, that's too much. We could do the same with the contrast. Contrast at 1 is normal contrast. 2 is double. 0 is just gray because there should be no difference in the brightness between each pixel. But what do you think happens when we put in 100 contrast? yeah, it's kind of just breaks things. Okay, but what do you think happens if we put -1 contrast? This is inverting the brightness of all the pixels. -200. Oh, okay, that broke something, but this looks pretty cool too. But this is just the global settings. We can also go down into the shadows, midtones, and highlights and modify all of these differently too. So let's put the midtones at like 20, and then the shadows, we can invert that. We can even offset so that just one color is used, so all the shadows are now like this color. Maybe the highlights are just pure blue. And this is starting to look really trippy. Kind of looks like heat vision. I'm using this in my game Gangstock, where glitched out CCTV cameras will have this inverted look. You can also do this kind of glitching in a post-processing shader. So here I have a post-processing material on my scene, and this first one here, I just split out the RGB components, and we could just mix these up and see what happens. That's pretty cool. I have this one that's getting rid of the fractions, and if we increase the strength, see it start to glitch out. This one's doing a quantize, so it's lowering the number of colors in the scene that I could choose from. This one is doing the same effect as this, but just on the red channel, which I really like the look of this one. It's cool. Yeah, there's just like infinite amount of weird effects that you can do. It's really fun to play around with. Whoa. Whoa. It is pretty easy to get chaotic results from playing around with glitch art. The problem is reining that in and finding a way of controlling it while it's still like legible. I found this cool bug that happens when you use a substrate material and then set the specular to be 0. Something in the material calculation is breaking here, and it's just showing us the data in the video buffer. While it's a cool effect, we probably shouldn't actually use it in a project. The flashing glitches could turn into strobing, which is dangerous and gives me a headache. Also, this glitch could be patched in a future update to Unreal, so we wouldn't want to depend on it. Another glitch artifact I wanted to recreate is NaN Propagation. Remember how we talked about those cursed numbers breaking the color channels? Well, what happens when we send a null value into our post-processing effects? Say you're a blur function on a pixel and you want to look around at your neighbor pixels to see what colors they are. You're going to find the average and then add them to your own pixel. So you start looking around, maybe add a bit of cyan, a bit of blue, and then what happened to your neighbor? This isn't total black, 0, there's just nothing here. So you sample their value, but now your calculations are cursed. By the next frame, your pixel has also turned into null space. This causes a chain reaction in the NaN value, propagating through the entire frame. We call this NaN Propagation, and it's terrifying. In some cases, it could look like mold spreading through a screen. I tried inputting some null values into my post-processing shaders, but unfortunately Unreal prevents these from actually breaking anything. So instead, I need to find a way of simulating NaN Propagation. NaN Propagation is a temporal effect, so I started by going back and looking at my data moshing code and making a few tweaks. The first thing I did is set it so that anything below a certain brightness turns instantly black. This is going to be the seeds for our NaN values to grow. This effect on its own looks pretty sick too. Next, I used the data moshing function to move the previous frame based on the motion vectors, but instead of combining it with the current frame, I instead took whatever pixels were black and then just masked that onto the current image. The result mimics how NaN Propagation works by smearing across the frame until it covers everything. And this is as far as I've gotten. It's not quite the same effect as NaN Propagation, but it's starting to look close. Also, I'm running this effect before the tone mapper, meaning we still get these blooms and depth of field effects. I stumbled into this cool LiDAR looking effect while testing the shader out. It's really creepy. This is just random noise letting some pixels through, but because it's before the tone mapper, it creates all these weird artifacts. Glitches don't just impact the shaders though, they can also warp the geometry of a level. Take for instance, cartridge tilting. In older game consoles like the N64, you can force a glitch to happen by tilting the cartridge while the game was still running. Also, do you think Blockbuster wants their copy of Banjo-Tooie back?
Dear Mario, please come to the castle. I have baked a cake for you. Yours truly, Tootsie.
It's like horror music. Oh god. Mario? Most of the time, cartridge tilting just glitches the audio. Ooh. But in some games, you can also glitch out the armatures of the character models, causing them to flail about chaotically. Mario, no! One popular example of this was GoldenEye. Yes! Come on, don't crash. Don't crash. Yes! In the late 2000s, this actually turned into a meme. Someone on the Japanese video site Nico Nico Doga edited footage of this glitch with the song Promise by Komi Hiroshi and titled it Get Down. This spread into animated versions and then people actually recreating it in real life by them just editing together photos of them jumping around. We can recreate armature glitching in Unreal by messing with the character animation blueprint. So here in our character animation blueprint, I just created this random rotation seed, and then in our animation graph, we have transform bone. This is just the spine. I multiply the seed with like a random number, and then we can see that now the spine is twisting randomly. I also did the arms and legs here, so we can add those. And now everything is twisting. Yep. Why is this kind of terrifying though? It's kind of scary. I've also seen some horror games actually use this on the necks of characters to create this creepy head shaking effect. The temporal anti-aliasing here is breaking, causing some weird artifacts too. This could work really well with some data mosh. There's a whole community of people that try to corrupt games in interesting ways, including making software like this, the real-time corruptor, which you can use to find all sorts of glitch effects. I'm a huge fan of Vinesauce's corruption streams, where he showcases some of the wild glitches that the community has found.
So this was just lurking within the Piglet code, like the entire time.
A common theme in these corruptions is the vertexes of the geometry getting corrupted and then stretching out. So let's try recreating this in Unreal. Okay, so I have the texture coordinate going into a panner into a noise texture here, multiplying that by 100 to up the strength, and that just goes right into the world position offset. And you can see that it's offsetting the material, makes it look like a liquid or slime or something. This is pretty good. But it's using the position of the UV of each texture, so let's try doing this. Let's use the absolute world position instead, and then plug that in. Now we got this bizarre stretching going on. It looks really cool. How far up can we make this? Add a couple zeros. There we go. No, my ducks. It's so good. Oh wait. Let's add in the chrome as well. Nice. That looks so good. Actually, already used this effect in my game Kitten Burst. At the end of this scene, I automated how much the environment is glitching based off of the music. Okay, but what does it look like when GPUs are at their absolute limits? At this point, the whole picture starts to break down. When you start to see something like this, you should be very concerned. It isn't always your GPU though, it could just be a faulty cable, or maybe your RAM got unseated. There's some fun videos of people taking out the RAM in their computer while it's still running and creating these, honestly, like terrifying artifacts. So how can we recreate something like this without actually breaking anything? Let's go back to our post-processing shader, and then instead of glitching the colors, let's glitch out the UV of the image. The UV is just pointing to where on the screen each pixel should go. If we do some cursed math to it, we can manipulate this. We could create some really long cursed math chain to create something glitchy, but I found that sampling some glitch textures works really well with this. But don't just go on Google and steal some glitch textures. It's easy enough to make some yourself. The app Glitchy has some fun effects you could play around with, and then like stack them on top of each other. You can also try corrupting image files themselves. You could use the audio software Audacity to data bend TIFF files. It's pretty cool. I also made some glitch textures from that weird specular glitch that I was seeing, and I've linked them in the description, so feel free to use them in any project. Okay, let's take one of these textures as a sample, and then we can use its color channels to offset the UV. Okay, so I have this first one where I have the texture coordinate getting added to a sample of one of our glitch textures. I'm just masking this to RNG because we only need the U and V, and then I'm multiplying it with a strength parameter that we can control later, putting that into the UV of the scene texture colors, and then directly out. And then we can look, if we modify the strength, it changes the strength of the glitch. Let's look at another example. In this one, I'm using two different glitch textures and a panner, which is going to move them around. Oh yeah, I also added another multiply onto the color using the color of the glitch texture itself, just to add a little extra color to it as well. So let's check this out. This one's looking pretty cool. We're getting there, but it doesn't look too glitchy yet. So let's look at another example. In this one, we're doing the same, merging two textures together, but now I'm getting the time, I'm multiplying by 10 and getting the floor. This is gonna make it so that the texture coordinate changes every 0.1 second. So that should give us more of a stuttery, glitchy kind of look. So let's check this out. Okay, this is definitely reading as glitch to me. This one works really well if it's like pretty subtle though. Like you could just get full noise like that. And then add a little of the color in. I like it. It's almost like pastel. I like this one. Oh, you know what I should do? Let's go a step further though. This would look really cool as a depth of field effect. Here, the strength of everything is modified by the scene depth. And let's check that out. So now it's only things far away from the camera that are glitching. Here's another example with a different texture. And then I have it set up in the parameters as well so that we can modify the depth of everything. The strength. Okay, one last one. This one, you can see this is getting more complicated as it goes, so this is the last one. In this one, I'm using the absolute world position of the objects in the scene in order to modify how things are glitched. It's hard to explain, but look, just watch. So, what do you think? What kind of glitches are your favorites? I'm probably going to try using some of these ideas in my game Gangstalk, which you can wishlist right now. Please wishlist it. Also, if you like this video, please subscribe for more. I'm approaching 100K, and once I hit that, I'll share a photo of me dressed up as YouTube for Halloween in 2010. Once I hit 1 million, I'll do a face reveal. Why are you being so dramatic? Somewhere out there. Okay, that's all. Goodbye.